Alright guys, I am back to answer these questions you left for the Q&A. I want to thank everybody who participated, who left questions. I got a lot of questions here, some great questions. So I'm just going to go through and answer these now. I think I can do all of them in one video, so I'll give it my best shot here. Starting with Ryu245, when will you do another horror room movie review again? I mean, really, I didn't stop for any particular reason. I haven't done one in a really long time. I guess I left off with Nightmare on Elm Street. I didn't finish that. I only did the first movie, and that's kind of where I left off. As far as those go, I haven't really watched a lot of old horror movies in a while, at least 80s slasher movies. But I did watch, I don't know if anybody else is going to remember this horror movie, but there's a horror movie from the late 90s called Cube, and I really like it. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I did watch that one again recently. And then I watched Cube 2, which sucks. I'm not a big fan of that one. And then they actually have Cube 3, and I've seen them all before, but I really like the concept. And basically, these people wake up in a giant cube, and they have to navigate through the cube. They don't know why they're there, they don't know what's going on, but they have to navigate through the cube and hope that they can find a way out. But the problem is, a lot of these rooms have traps in them. So one room will spray acid in your face, another one has a bunch of knives pop up, and it's just a really cool concept. So if I did do another horror movie, it would probably be the Cube series, just because that's the one I'd want to do. Blue Tank says, do more scary movies review, and it would be cool if you could play scary games, lol. Scary games, I really enjoy them. I like to watch other people play them. Games like Silent Hill, Outlast, those types of games, Amnesia, I like to watch, but I don't actually like to play myself. I think the last scary game I did play myself was Dead Island. And that game's not really scary, but there are some parts it gets kind of creepy. Like when you go into the sewers, it's kind of creepy down there. And the cool thing about Dead Island is you can play with another person online. You can kind of help each other out. But man, some of these games today, they're really, really creepy. And they're so creepy, I get creeped out watching other people play them on YouTube. I mean, I'm being for real. So I don't really play a lot of scary games myself. Adam Zarkos, what's your opinion on Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton? So I just heard about this. Is there a storyline to why these two are fighting, or it's just supposed to be a big match like UFC or something, where we have Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar just for the hell of it? I'm not really interested in it. I mean, if Brock Lesnar goes out there and just takes him to Suplex City, that could be entertaining for the short term, I guess. But yeah, I don't think anybody's really super hyped about this matchup. And Randy Orton doesn't really seem to be as passionate as he used to be, which is saying something, because there were a lot of times he was kind of phoning it in and he was kind of lazy. So yeah, I don't even know how much longer this guy wants to wrestle. But as for me, I'm not like super pumped about that. There's really nothing in wrestling I'm super pumped about. What Enigma 66? What good movies have you seen that you could do a review on? I watched The Shallows last week, and that was a shark movie, and I thought it was awesome. I really love that movie. I love shark movies in general. More realistic shark movies, not like Sharknado and all that crap. I don't watch those. But The Shallows was really good. I saw the new X-Men movie. I really liked that. I haven't really seen a lot of movies this year. I saw Deadpool. I saw some movie about a witch in the woods. I can't remember the name of it. Oh, what was the name of that movie? It was something about a witch. And I went and saw it with a buddy of mine. We didn't know what to expect, but it's about this family back in the old days. They farm their own food, they live off the land, and there's this witch who kidnaps one of their children, and things just get worse and worse. And not to spoil the movie, if you know what I'm talking about, but it's like the most satanic movie I've ever seen in my life. Just when you think it's over and it can't get any worse, it does. And big spoiler, the end of the movie has the only girl left surviving go off into the woods naked to have this naked dance with a bunch of other girls while Satan levitates them. And that's how it ended. After watching that movie, I felt like I needed a shower. I was just like, that's so evil. It was strange, man. I didn't like it. I hate Facebook 31184. What was your first reaction when Shane McMahon came back? I thought it was kind of cool to see him back after being away for so long and no one really knowing what he was doing or what had actually happened with him and Vince, if they had a falling out or what. So I thought it was cool, but I didn't really see what they were going to do with this long term. I didn't buy him as a credible opponent for The Undertaker. I thought the whole thing was really sloppy. The writing was really bad. Why these guys were fighting, that didn't really make any sense. And I knew he was probably going to take a big bump at WrestleMania. I didn't actually watch WrestleMania 32, but I felt like he was going to take a big bump, and he did. But yeah, I feel like the whole McMahon rivalry storyline, it's been done to death. And I mean, Shane coming back to take control of Raw or book Raw or something like that, whatever they were doing, it's not real. It's he doesn't actually have any power. So I'm not really excited about any of that crap. Yeah, it was a cool appearance, kind of like a cameo, like when Psycho Sid came back or when Vader came back. But to have him on TV all the time, when you also have Vince and Stephanie and Triple H, it's like you'd think his dad owns the company or something, you know? It's just one of those things, like, why give the wrestlers screen time when we can pack more McMahons on TV that no one wants to see? So yeah, it was a cool one-night only deal, but to keep it around any longer than that, just I didn't care for it. Lee Cameron, do some scary movies, please. You're good at them, like the most recent ones, please. Yeah. I haven't even seen The Conjuring. I haven't seen The Conjuring 1 or 2. I haven't seen The Purge 2 or 3. I really have been out of the horror movie loop besides that witch movie I told you about, and I'm not watching that one again. So yeah, it would have to be a movie I really wanted to see. I'll tell you this, the trailer for that new movie Lights Out, which they straight up ripped from a YouTube video where the lady's, I can't remember what she's doing, but when she cuts the lights off, this thing like moves towards her, and when she cuts them on, it freezes. There's some type of YouTube video out there like that, and I don't know if they were involved in this movie, but it's a really creepy video. And this movie is just directly based off of that, I think. And that one actually looks really, really scary. Balzer77. How much did you have to drink here, and have you turned into an alcoholic? You know what? You can thank Drunk Daniel for this Q&A, because I actually stay pretty busy, and while I do think about the channel on occasion, he's the one who puts these things into motion. He sets this up, and then sober Daniel has to come and pick up the pieces. So that's actually why I'm doing this now. Anthony Jenkins, Jink 2000. What are your thoughts on Jeepers Creepers 3 and Chucky 7? Chucky 7. I guess that's a new one that's coming out. I saw bits and pieces of that one Chucky movie. I didn't think it was too bad. There was some stuff that was a little cheesy for sure. Jeepers Creepers, that's not a series that I grew up watching. So it's not like I have a lot of really strong feelings about Jeepers Creepers either way. I think it was in high school when the first one came out, and it was kind of just summer horror movie type deal. You know, you go watch it and then that's it. It doesn't really stick with you. So I know a lot of people probably grew up and they have nostalgia for Jeepers Creepers, but I personally don't. So they're decent movies, but that's really all they are to me. Chucky, I do have a lot of nostalgia for that series, and I feel like what they did with the latest movie, I don't know if it was 7 or which one you're talking about here, but the latest one that came out, I think The Girl's in a Wheelchair or something like that. That wasn't bad. That wasn't a bad movie. Warren and Tias Box, good to see you looking so good, man. Who, why, what? Do more movie reviews and the like. I subbed after I saw you with a few than regulars ages ago. They were fun. Do you see any of them anymore? Waza Prawn Woza. This reads like you were drunker than me in the last video when you when you wrote this. I think you're just basically asking if I still watch horror movies, which I kind of already answered. I haven't seen a lot of movies this year, especially horror movies. So on occasion, I'll go back and watch movies. Like I just recently watched Cube 1 and 2, and so I'll do stuff like that. But yeah, I still watch horror movies. I still enjoy them. I watched Saw 1 and 2 recently as well, and those were like the best in the series, I think. So really enjoyed Saw. I'm trying to think what other horror movies I've seen recently that I just kind of watched on my own. I watched The Fly again. But yeah, I like to watch movies in my spare time. I guess I haven't really been watching a lot of horror. And for the record, I don't really consider The Fly a horror movie. It's more of a science fiction type deal. I recently watched Goodfellas. I'm sure we've all seen that about 1,000,000 times. Great movie. Definitely recommend that one if you haven't seen it. And actually, after watching Goodfellas, I've never watched The Sopranos. So I'm actually going to go through that series and watch The Sopranos. I think I'm going to start it tonight. Diru Mayday. Do you think CM Punk ruined, in a way, AJ Lee's career? It seems like when she started dating him, she started to get douchey on Twitter and was just phoning it in on the ring. You know, when it comes to that, I think AJ Lee is a young girl. She's naive. And she met this guy, and like a lot of people do in a new relationship, she started to change things about herself to make herself more appealing to him, I think. And I don't know about phoning it in the ring. I don't know about what she did on Twitter. But I knew when she started dating CM Punk and he was on his way out that she would be next. And she didn't have to do that. The company had no problems with AJ. That was all a result of the whole Punk relationship. And at WrestleMania 30, I was sitting next to this guy, and I said something about that. I said, do you think AJ Lee is going to leave wrestling? Because I had that feeling, like, yeah, she's going to go. She's going to follow her man or whatever. And he said, no, she loves it too much. She's passionate about wrestling. But I knew it was going to happen, and it did. And I don't know what she's doing now, but you can't give up your dreams, your aspirations for someone else. That person should support you and encourage you, and he should be smart enough to say, look, I feel like, you know, you're leaving the company because of me and the problems I have with the company, and I don't want that. And he should have supported her decision to stay in wrestling and realized that she's just thinking more with her heart than her head. And I feel like AJ kind of missed out on some cool stuff that she's only going to get to do once in a lifetime. Especially in wrestling, there are moments that they come and go and you can't get those back. And this was a critical point in her career, and she gave it up for CM Punk. So I thought that was pretty stupid. But yeah, I feel that relationship definitely hurt her career. And I'm not really blaming Punk for this. I mean, it was AJ Lee's decision, but yeah, I think it was a little naive, and she didn't think it through all the way. But I mean, on the other hand, you also have to think about how every time she had a match, people chanted CM Punk. And so that relationship had a negative effect on her work in the ring anyways. Balls are 77. Someone is drunk again, shaking my head. Enigma 66, please do more horror movie reviews. Wrestling Fortune 44, what did you think of WrestleMania 32? Didn't watch it. In fact, the only clip I tried to find from WrestleMania 32 is the Shane McMahon bump. I saw it, and yeah, don't really care about anything else on the show. How often do you watch wrestling now? When it comes to Monday Night Raw, I will occasionally put it on if I'm here, and I'll use the computer, I'll read articles, I'll play old video games, I'll do almost anything but watch wrestling. Sometimes I'll work out during the show, so I kind of hear things, hear bits and pieces when I have it on, but rarely, and I don't pay attention to it. I definitely don't sit for the whole 3 hours or anything like that. And as far as pay-per-views, zero. I don't watch any of those. Is there anything that wrestling can do to pique your interest again? I don't think so, no. Maybe if they had it less scripted, if they had guys go out there and cut their own promos, good, bad, whatever, but as long as it felt authentic, that could be entertaining. Even the mess ups, that would be entertaining. More entertaining than just this scripted product we have now where nothing matters. And I can't invest my time in this company, especially when they really don't listen to the people. They're going to continue to push Roman Reigns. As insane as that sounds, that's what they're going to do. They fire guys like Damian Sandow. Guys who get themselves over. And it's, why would you support this? It just makes me so angry to see guys like Roman Reigns getting pushed when other people are more deserving, who grinded their way on the indies, and they're not getting these opportunities that Roman Reigns is when he's clearly not over. He's clearly not that great in the ring or on the mic. It's a look. That's all it is. And that's not enough in 2016. When there's so many guys out there that are just insanely talented. People know that. I mean, they're not dumb. What made you stop watching wrestling? Really just what I said about the whole Roman Reigns thing. I didn't care for that. The show was just making me really angry. It's obvious that they're trying everything they can to get this guy over. It never works out. It's just infuriating to me. And then you have guys like Kevin Owens out there fighting for the Intercontinental title. I mean, I can't take it. What do you like about wrestling today? Nothing really with WWE. I think some of the indie companies are fun to watch. You have some new up-and-coming guys in CZW. You have guys in PWG that just go out there and put on amazing matches that just make you wonder why WWE makes everyone tone everything down to such an extent. And I've heard, it's better for them. Indie guys don't have to wrestle as often. Yeah, but you could still go out there and put on some amazing matches like these guys are doing in PWG, even if it's sparingly. but it's always that same bland WWE style. And sometimes the WWE style is great and it works for a certain match type, like a Cena match. He can put on some good matches working that style, but that doesn't work for everybody. And you really got to let people go out there and have more freedom to be themselves, to put on their types of matches, and stop trying to control everything. And that's what really just turned me off of wrestling altogether, is the control. You look at a guy like Ambrose on the indies when he was Moxley, and the insane promos he would cut, and the crazy stuff he would do, compared to the Ambrose now, who goes out there and acts like a big goofball. And I like Ambrose and everything, but it's like two different people. It really is. I mean, Moxley would beat the crap out of this Ambrose. The Black Hood. What happened to you reviewing WrestleMania 32? I just don't really want to watch it. What's your take on WWE bringing back the brand extension? The brand extension is an interesting thing because it does pique my interest. I like the brand extension for that one show where the guys come out, you don't know where they're going to go, and it's kind of a fun thing, and you get to watch that show and be like, oh, I wonder where they're going to go. Are they going to split up this tag team? But sometimes it doesn't work out for the guys. And I think that because of that, the brand extension is good for that show, but it's only good in the short term. Long term, I don't think the brand extension is a good idea, especially with the amount of pay-per-views they want to do with this thing. It's too much. It's way too much. So I am interested in the brand extension to see what happens, but only in the short term. Long term, I think it's a bad idea, especially when they split up tag teams. That always sucks. What's your take on WWE bringing back individual pay-per-views for both brands? It's just too much wrestling. I can't even feign interest in watching one pay-per-view a month, let alone two. I'm just not interested in that. They can't build the stories up well enough anymore, and I can't imagine them trying to do that with two pay-per-views when they can barely handle one. And that's asking a lot of the wrestlers because they're the ones that have to go out there and pick up the slack with these crappy storylines. So it doesn't work for anybody. Oh, and the other thing about the brand extension, I seriously believe that this is all just a way to keep Roman Reigns and Cena separated, because they want to push both of those guys, but they can't do it and not let them fight each other at some point for a belt or something. So the only way that they can separate these two so that they can both stay baby faces is have one on one show and the other on the other show. So rather than just one show with an annoying douchebag, we have two shows with two douchebags. Scorp18 talks wrestling. Do you still watch wrestling? Not really. I read the news about it in forums and things like that because I am interested in it. I am a fan of a lot of these wrestlers, so I'll do that, but don't really watch it. How have you been? Very well. Where have you been? Actually, I just got back from a trip to Europe, which is one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. I got to go to Germany. I went to Poland. I went to the Czech Republic, and I got to go to Austria. It was kind of a Holocaust, World War II centered trip, and it was phenomenal. I got to see a lot of really cool stuff. I went to Berlin, Prague, Munich, Warsaw, Krakow, and Salzburg, and I think I'll have to make a separate video talking about that trip because I saw some stuff that was just like crazy, man. Like I have some pretty good stories from that trip. How's the weather? Extremely hot here. And Kunj, will you ever review Wrong Turn 6? I don't know if I reviewed Wrong Turn 5, actually. But yeah, that's a movie I'd be interested in. I like that. I like the cannibal hillbilly type thing they got going on in that series. I don't mind those movies. Valentino Vital One Lyman, are you okay, buddy? You've been missed. Your take on the Hardys' final deletion? Freaking amazing. I loved Final Deletion. I clicked the video and it said it was like 20 minutes or something like that, and I thought, man, there's no way I'm gonna sit and watch this whole thing. But I immediately got sucked in and I watched the entire thing. It's genius. That is genius. If you have not seen the Hardys' Final Deletion, go out of your way to watch this video because it is amazing stuff. And you have drones, you have holograms, you have Jeff Hardy chasing after drones on his motorcycle, you have them shooting fireworks at each other. I mean, it is mind-blowing stuff. I loved Final Deletion. A lot of respect to the Hardys for trying something that crazy and outlandish, and it was successful. I might have to watch that again. Jamie Green, can you do a review for Grave Encounters 2? That sounds familiar. I think I did one for the first movie, but yeah, I can't really remember it. I'm not sure if I did. Iron Metal 222 reviews. Do you think CM Punk has a chance at UFC 203? No. And I really hope he loses. And I know that sounds kind of bad, I guess, but I mean, isn't that what you do? And when you watch these UFC fights, you pick a guy you want to win, right? So saying I hope Punk loses, that's not bad. That's his job, right? To go out there and fight, so... from what I hear, he's been injured a couple times. He's older than a lot of other fighters with none of their experience. His training hasn't gone as well as expected. He's been delayed from actually having a fight for quite some time now. And this new guy has experience, I think. I don't know much about him. So I don't think Punk has the best odds here. It'll be interesting if it even happens. The Sparta 1812, will you please review Wrong Turn 6? Oh goodness, I might have to check that out. I really want to watch The Sopranos though. Chance Jackson, top 3 best and worst deathmatch tournaments, also worst and best year in movies, music, and wrestling. Wow, that's a really big question. Oh, worst deathmatch tournaments. You know, I don't really think there are any tournaments I think are the worst. I love deathmatch wrestling. So I don't know if there's any tournaments I would say I thought were terrible. There are definitely some that are better than others. I would have to say the top, or not the top, but the first 4 CZW Tournament of Deaths, I loved all 4. I really liked 4. I thought it was different. That's the one where I believe Nick Gage got set on fire. Necro gets into a big brawl, like real punching each other in the face with Zandig. Tournament of Death 2 has the big Signic Mondo bump. Of course, Necro Butcher's going insane in all of these. Just awesome tournaments. Everything after that, I feel, has failed to live up to those first 4. Not that they're bad tournaments, by any means. But if I had to pick one that I didn't really care for, I would say the one where Nick Gage had to get a helicopter to take him out of there because he cut himself pretty bad. Or one of the ones where Masada won. Because he won, I think, 2 years in a row, and one of those was kind of subpar. I didn't really care for one of them with Thumbtack Jack, I think. I can't remember which one it is. Like I said, the first 4, I know a lot of stuff that happens in those, but after that, it's kind of a blur. So, I would say Tournament of Death 4 and 2, King of the Deathmatch 2003, that was just stacked, had a ton of great deathmatch guys, awesome stipulations. I love King of the Deathmatch. IWA East Coast has had some pretty cool death matches, and they try to do unique stipulations. IWA Deep South has the most insane death matches where, I mean, someone could really get hurt doing that stuff, because I don't think they take the same precautions. It's more insane. And the guys seem to, even as far as deathmatch wrestling goes, where guys maybe don't take care of themselves like they should because it's just kind of a brutal match type, the guys in Deep South care even less about themselves and their well-being. So it's almost like cringe-worthy to watch, but yeah, I love deathmatch wrestling. Worst and best year in movies, music, and wrestling. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I can do this with a single year. I think I have to kind of spread it out into decades. Wrestling is easily the 90s, Attitude Era, Monday Night Wars, never going to top that again. People can say whatever they want about it. Oh, it wasn't that great, it was kind of silly at times. Wrestling has never been hotter than that, and it never will be again. I mean, there was a reason people were watching that stuff. It was new, it was fresh. There was still mystique about wrestling. You didn't know what the heck was going to happen. You didn't know who was going to show up on WCW or what guy from WCW was going to be on Raw. I mean, it was just so freaking good, man. Worst decade. I know a lot of people crap on the 1996-95 era of WWE. They think it's kind of cheesy. WCW was doing those weird videos with Vader and Sting in the early 90s, and that was really cheesy. But I can't really hate on it because I grew up really watching wrestling in those eras, and I loved it. I'm trying to think of some of the goofy gimmicks. You had Who. That was the guy's name, Who. You had Aldo Montoya. Mankind had shown up and was feuding with The Undertaker, and I hated Mankind for that. And he was putting his hand in people's mouths, and they were spitting up that white stuff. It was a cool time. And then I remember Diesel leaving and showing up on WCW, and he had been feuding with The Undertaker previously. And then you didn't know if Hall and Nash were actually from WWE, so when they announced that they were going to be on Raw, I mean, it was just too much. And then you find out it's a fake Diesel and Razor Ramon, but it still felt real, like something's going on here. And yeah, I mean, I can't really complain about a decade of wrestling. There's always something I've liked. I would have to say the worst decade of wrestling has probably been one of the more recent ones, just with the same old crap. No real competition for WWE. They can do whatever they want. There's nothing to change the channel to, really. Well, for a while you could change it to TNA, but in many ways that was worse. So it didn't have the same feel like wrestling used to have. And you also have to consider you had ECW at that time. It was just all great stuff in the 90s. Music-wise, I would also have to go with the 90s. I really liked a lot of the bands that came up in the 90s, bands that were doing new stuff that was fresh and original. You had bands like Marilyn Manson come out, Nine Inch Nails, Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana was around. You had a lot of the grunge bands come up, and it was new. It felt like just a whole new era of music, and it was definitely new to me, so I really liked that. However, I would have to say that my favorite time in music was probably the 2000s, and I actually like a lot of emo bands. I know, whatever, but I really like a lot of those bands that used Saves the Day, Alkaline Trio, and a lot of those bands were getting bigger. The Get Up Kids, Reggie and the Full Effect, just tons and tons of great bands right around the 2000s. And they were just putting out some killer stuff that I still like. So I would have to say that the 2000s are probably my favorite for music. But it's very close with the 90s as well, because I also have a lot of nostalgia for that. As far as movies go, I really can't think of a bad decade for movies. There's always been great movies coming out in every decade. The 70s, you had a lot of great horror movies. Same thing with the 80s. The 80s was phenomenal. You had Back to the Future, The Lost Boys, just really cool movies that I grew up watching. The 90s, you had Jurassic Park, and it was kind of a return to a different type of horror movie in the 90s, I feel. But there was a lot of great movies in the 90s, and then so you had horror movies in the 80s. The 80s also had, I don't know what you would describe it as, but it was that kind of Revenge of the Nerds type movies where you go to school and then there's a bully. You had a lot of those in the 80s. And the 90s had a lot of great movies too. Some of my all-time favorites came out in the 90s. Dumb and Dumber, Goodfellas. Just some awesome movies there. And then in the 2000s, you had some amazing comedies come out. You had all those Seth Rogen movies come out, which are hilarious. So yeah, I can't really think of a bad decade for movies. And even lately, there's been some amazing stuff come out. It Follows, Ex Machina. There's been a lot of variety in movies. Now, Hollywood does suck, and the remakes are just insane to try to deal with that all the time. But every once in a while, you do get a gem, and after you watch that, you're like, wow, this is why I like going to the movies. And a movie like that for me was Ex Machina. It's a long question. Otaku Wolfman, how did you get your YouTube name? I wanted to start making videos, and I needed a name to put them under, so I had to come up with one, and I just picked this one. It took me like maybe 10 minutes. Probably less. Will you ever review ROH Wrestling again? Will I ever watch ROH Wrestling again? I have no idea when it comes on. And I'm sure it's great. I love Ring of Honor. I support those guys. I think Jay Lethal is still champion, which is awesome. Love the House of Truth. Love the Japanese wrestlers they've been bringing in. The whole New Japan thing they got going on is awesome. But honestly, I don't even read Ring of Honor results. I couldn't tell you what's going on in that company. So yeah, I would like to watch it, but wrestling is really not a priority for me. I don't try to go out of my way to watch it, so I really just forget about it. But nothing against the company. Have you seen the Deadpool movie? I thought it was great. Yeah, Deadpool for me was probably the greatest superhero movie I've ever seen. Deadpool was a perfect superhero movie. It had everything. I loved it. Did you hear about the draft? Yeah, I kind of talked about that earlier. Who do you want to see drafted? Any new faces or returns? You know, at my age, a lot of the guys I grew up watching, some of my favorite wrestlers, are too old to be doing this crap. So as far as returns go, guys I like Raven, like Sabu, like Kurt Angle, I don't think they're going to show up there. It's over with for them. They're kind of on the downside of their careers. And a lot of them don't even wrestle anymore. Like Raven, I don't think even has matches anymore. So there's really not a lot of returns I'd like to see. I didn't really care about wrestling in that mid-2000 era. So I know people have mentioned Carlito and stuff. Carlito was a mid-card guy at best. I mean, why would I get pumped up about that? I wasn't even a big Carlito fan when he was wrestling. Same thing with guys like MVP. That wasn't my era, man. My era was more ECW, NWO type guys, and they're too old to be doing this. So there's really not a lot of returns I'd care to see. WWE just wasn't putting on very good shows at the time. Maybe like a Paul London or Brian Kendrick or something like that. Maybe that's some guys I could get into, but as far as new faces go, my problem with WWE is while there's a lot of guys in the indie scene who it would be cool to see get drafted so that they can make those paychecks, part of me doesn't want that to happen because WWE is going to take them. And right now they're on the indies putting on amazing matches. They're going to make them tone it down, change their characters, and send them to NXT or whatever, give them a goofy name and gimmick, and then send them to Raw or SmackDown so that they can become the new mid-card guy. I mean, it's hard to find a guy who's as talented as Neville. And look what they're doing with him. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, they're doing nothing with these guys. I mean, Dolph Ziggler, a lot of people don't like him, and it's clearly never going to happen for the poor guy, but you can't deny he was very talented in the ring. He still is. And they have their own agenda. So while new faces would be great to see, and I would love to see these guys make a lot of money and get paid, it's also kind of disappointing when they leave the indies. It's always just a sad thing for me. I mean, I feel like, honestly, for every Seth Rollins you get, there's like 10 Nevilles. And those odds, they just suck. And some of these guys that are really talented, like Sami Callihan, they never even make it out of developmental. Will you watch and review the Cruiserweight Classic tournament on the WWE Network? Now, see, here's the thing about this. While that would be something I would enjoy watching, I think, and it has a lot of guys who I think are going to have more freedom to go out there and put on these great matches, I kind of feel like it would be supporting the company, and I don't want to support this company. I don't feel that they deserve my support. And just as an example, the fact that this Cruiserweight tournament, which is a great idea, I think it's awesome that they're doing this, the fact that it's on the network shows you how much they care about a Cruiserweight division. I mean, they got 2 brands. 2 brands now, and it's on the network. Faust D. Martini. Just curious if you were a music fan, and if so, what kind? Any favorite bands? Yeah, I listen to everything, man, and I don't mean that in one of those ways that people say, but they really don't listen to everything. I seriously listen to everything. Country, rap, rock, punk music, dubstep music, everything. I listen to it all. I love music, and I even like pop music. I like Kesha. I'm a big Kesha fan. So yeah, I listen to everything. Some of my favorite bands, I've answered this question so many times, but it has been a while. So it's always the same. It's like Queen, Danzig, Smashing Pumpkins, Alkaline Trio, Blink-182 is one of my favorite bands, which is interesting because the singer of Alkaline Trio is now the singer of Blink, which is sad because it's not Blink without Tom. But at the same time, Tom, it sounds like he was kind of being a douchebag. And Mark is a great songwriter. And he's really talented. And even though Tom was my favorite member, and I like his songs, Mark has a lot of talent, man. You can't. It's wrong to make him not be able to continue with the band just because you got your own crazy crap going on. And Skiba, while it's a unique fit, I think it sounds awesome, and it's really cool. I mean, 2 of my favorite bands kind of merging. So yeah. And it looks like from your avatar that you're a pretty big music fan too, so I actually have a question for you. What's the deal with Led Zeppelin? They've been stealing music and crap? That is so disappointing. I read somewhere that like freaking Stairway to Heaven was stolen, and a bunch of other songs too. I mean, what is the deal with that? Robin Miegner. Holy shit, man, I was the biggest fan of you back in like 2013. You were one of the first people I ever subscribed to. Thanks, man, I appreciate it. Ankunj, can you see John Cena? Do I want to see John Cena? Robin Miegner. Anyways, my question is, do you ever miss doing your movie reviews and weekly Raw reviews? No, not really, actually. I mean, at times it's cool. It's more fun like when I had my friend here to watch the movies, and we kind of hang out for a while, joke around. Doing it by myself wasn't nearly as fun, but a lot of people I knew moved away. That's just what happens in life. I eventually moved away. I don't live in the same town. So things happen, and I do enjoy making videos and stuff, but it's a lot more work than you think, and it's usually not even directly related to me. So like, for example, over spring break, which I can't remember when that was. It was sometime in March, maybe. Right after I had come back. And I told you guys I've been gone. I have this crappy webcam, all this. So right after I come back, I go home to my parents' house. And I decide that because I don't want to watch wrestling now, I'm going to watch an old wrestling show. And I watch it, and I make like half the video. And I thought there was some really funny stuff in it. I liked the video. I go to finish it, and all of a sudden these people are in the house. My parents come home, my brother's there, and there's all this noise, so I can't make the video. And then when I try to go back to it, it's in the back of my mind, so even if I can't hear them, I have to talk kind of at a certain volume to make these, and I feel like they're listening to me and like wondering what I'm talking about. And so I got into my own head, and then I couldn't do it. So half of that video that I put a lot of time into, because you got to watch these stupid shows. So I'm watching the show, stopping it to make the video, and it was all for nothing. And so once that happens and you've wasted that much time and effort, you don't want to go back to it. So that's why I went away again, because I didn't feel like doing another video when I had a great video I couldn't finish. So that really bothers me. J. Joao Greenier. Wrestling podcast, draft return, and cruiserweight classic. Well, I feel like I already talked about the draft, the Cruiserweight Classic. As far as wrestling podcasts go, I used to subscribe to the Wrestling Observer. I think the last time I subscribed was December 2015, because I was doing a lot of flying and I wanted it to listen to. And plus it was on a special. Sometimes they have sales. Very rarely, but when they do, I try to get a new subscription. And hard to beat that. I mean, Dave Meltzer's the man. If you're going to listen to a wrestling podcast, it should be his. Other podcasts, I'll listen to... I don't really listen to the podcast as much as I listen to clips about certain topics on YouTube. So Talk is Jericho, if it says something in recommended videos, I'll listen to those. I'll listen to Steve Austin, Jim Ross. There was a podcast on the MLW radio network. I don't know if you guys know about that, but that's where, Jim Cornette does his podcast, which I like when he's talking about wrestling, but we really disagree on politics, and he'll go off on these rants on politics that I don't like. So I don't listen to that really too much anymore. He's free to express his opinion. I just don't always want to hear it. Especially when he's just completely insulting me politically, and it is pretty brutal the things he says. And they had another show on there with Conan that was great. In fact, I was listening to it earlier this week, and it was a show from July 1st, and it was Conan's last show. They're like at the end, yeah, and Conan, thanks for the ride. It's been great. He's got to go do these other opportunities. And I'm like, dang, I was actually thinking about spending money for this network, for this subscription site, and now Conan's leaving. I'm not spending money on that now. So there's some good wrestling podcasts out there. There was another one that was really funny that was done by these comedians called Curtain Jerks. And they had some great bits. It was a funny show, but now I don't know what's going on with it. There's only one guy. It started with like 5 guys. And over the years, it's down to 1. But they're funny. They're funny guys. The J-Rock Freak, he is back. You know what I like about this guy? The J-Rock Freak? I'll make one video and go months without making another one, and he is so glasses half full that if I just upload one video, he always says he is back. And glasses half full with this guy. I like that. He always says he is back, even if it's like one video and then months later. J.O. Grenier, have you ever thought about becoming a pro wrestler, and also thoughts on Brock Lesnar and UFC? I think when you're a fan of wrestling, anytime, anybody who's a fan of wrestling has thought about becoming a pro wrestler. I mean, it's just the way it is. I used to wrestle with my friends in high school. We would have hardcore matches. We were big into ECW at the time. We would make tables out of cardboard and stuff, and different weapons, ladders, and things. And so you wrestle around with your friends, but you never really seriously consider becoming a wrestler. Like, I mean, take it so far that you start looking at schools. So yeah, I've thought about it, what my gimmick would be, and things like that, but my finishing move. But as far as seriously considering being a wrestler, no, I never really did. If I was, which I'm too old now, I mean, I could maybe do some type of weird DDP career where I come in when I'm almost 40 or something. But with wrestling, if I was to become a wrestler, and my advice to someone who wants to do this is to go to a credible school like Lance Storm School or Truth Martini's school or the Dudley Boys or something like that, who not only can give you a real education in wrestling, but also has connections. I mean, that's the smart way to do it. Don't go to your local guy and pay him when you don't even know his credentials. Oh, and Brock Lesnar is amazing. I mean, how do you not like this guy? He's done so much in his life, and he's still a young guy. I mean, he's great at wrestling. He's great at amateur wrestling. He tried out for the NFL. I mean, that takes a lot of guts to do that. He UFC, I mean, this guy's done so much. And a lot of people were saying Brock's not going to win that fight at UFC 200, and he did. I mean, he's always impressing people. So I love Brock Lesnar. I think he's just amazing and just such a gifted athlete. I can't think of anybody better than Brock. And as far as the UFC goes, I haven't watched the UFC in years. I know some of the names like McGregor and some of the girls and stuff, but I really don't follow it. I'll watch free matches that UFC puts on YouTube every once in a while, but other than that, I'm not really into UFC. I was in MMA for a while, but that was years ago, and I don't have a lot of interest. I know Dana White just recently sold the company for $4 billion, and he's supposed to stay on as president, but you have to think there's got to be some changes that are coming with new owners, so hopefully they're for the best. Saint Ty, what's your opinion on the ending of Naruto, Bleach, and the current arc of One Piece? Oh goodness, this is going to be a long one, and most of you guys probably have no idea what I'm about to talk about, so I apologize for that. So Naruto ended, and a lot of people didn't really care for that final villain, and there's going to be massive spoilers here. A lot of people didn't really care for that final villain, the Kaguya girl. And I personally didn't mind her. I thought she was a fine character. My biggest problem with Naruto was the entire final war. It was really sloppy, I felt. It didn't have a lot of thought put into it. I felt like there should definitely be more casualties on the hero side. The only person they killed was Shikamaru's dad, Ino's dad, and Neji. And that was really disappointing. I mean, how do you do that when you have a war? It's supposed to be a war. And I felt like there really wasn't a lot of changes. In fact, if you know you're ending the manga, and you know this is it, and I don't watch the anime, I only read the manga, so I read the end a long time ago. But if you know it's ending, why not kill off some of these named characters and give it a real impact? Like when Jiraiya died, why kill off Shikamaru's dad? I mean, kill off someone of importance here. I mean, there's no more coming, right? So what do you have to lose? I thought the final fight with Naruto and Sasuke was well done. They were both completely out of chakra, so it came down to basically just a fist fight, which I really enjoyed. I thought that was a nice touch, rather than throwing out a lot of jutsus here and there. So I did like that ending. I thought the time skip into the future with Naruto as Hokage was cool. I like that. And some of the Boruto stuff I like. I don't think all of it's considered canon. I watched the new Boruto movie and I like that. I think he's a cool character. So it was a long manga. I would say it was started off as one of the best mangas of all time, but it really fell off a cliff there towards the end. I can't really put my finger on exactly when it happened. I think it was around Dark Naruto, when Naruto had to face himself. I think that's where it kind of started going downhill. Kasami had a great fight with Guy, and then it was just kind of jump into the war, and a lot of the stuff with Sasuke was just beyond stupid. So while Naruto was a great series, it had way more potential, and I feel like Kishimoto he kind of lost it a bit with the writing. Bleach, I haven't been reading. The last fight I read in Bleach was the wrestling guy, and I can't remember who he fought. And then Kenpachi fighting that guy in the Stern Ritter who can create whatever he imagines comes to life. And I know I've heard the rumors that Bleach is ending, and I think that kind of sucks. My fear is that it's not his doing. That because Bleach is always ranking so low in the polls in Japan for Weekly Shonen Jump, I feel like they're rushing this. Now, if it's Kubo's idea, then great. But I really hope they're not rushing him to end it when he's so close to just ending it himself. And I really don't know why Bleach isn't popular in Japan. I love Bleach, and I think it's great. I think this latest arc has been really fun. You have some cool fights. You have some new ideas. The character designs are great as always in Bleach, and I've really enjoyed the fights. So I have no problem with Bleach. It's another long-running series. When I started reading manga, it was 2005, and I started with One Piece, and then I read Naruto, and then Bleach. Those were my first three mangas, and at the time, they were considered the big three. So it's sad to see two of the big three go away, and now we're just left with One Piece, which is still my favorite. And speaking of One Piece, the current arc with everything that's going on with Big Mom and Kaido and the Blackbeard Pirates and the Revolutionaries, this arc is amazing. But I'm really hoping that Oda isn't spreading himself too thin, because I feel like that's kind of what happened with Dressrosa. And Dressrosa was really disappointing to me. I had really high expectations for this, and Oda has been writing One Piece since 1997, and when you're writing something for that long, there's going to be some misses. And I honestly can't think of any misses that Oda's had in his entire career writing-wise until Dressrosa. So that's amazing in itself, but I don't know what happened with that. It really sucked. It started off great. Law's flashback was amazing. I really liked that. After reading that flashback, I thought to myself, how does Oda come up with this? The man is a genius. And then I get to the fights in Dressrosa with the Don Quixote family, and they're one-shotted. I'm not even talking a chapter. I'm talking like a couple pages, one move, and these guys who have been built up for so long are killed by no-names. Not even the Straw Hat Pirates, just no-name guys killed them. And that was so disappointing. I mean, you had these awesome characters like Lao G and that Dillinger guy and Diamante even. I mean, even the top brass in the Don Quixote family were taken down like nothing. He was defeated by a one-legged soldier. I mean, what is that? And Pika got nothing. That was so disappointing. I don't think he landed one blow on Zoro, now that I think about it. So it was really disappointing, and I feel like a lot of people say it's because Oda created too many characters, he couldn't keep track of everything, but I really hope that he wasn't rushed, and I seriously doubt they would ever rush him because he makes them so much money that they probably want One Piece to go on as long as humanly possible. And I don't think it was him being rushed. I think he just wanted to shorten those fights, and that was like the worst thing to shorten. If there was anything to shorten, it was not the fights. Because it's like wrestling. People get invested, and then you're building towards that. That's like a pay-per-view ending with a bunch of finger pokes of doom, to use a wrestling analogy. So you have all these big matches that have been hyped, and then they're all over in seconds. I mean, you know how crappy that would be? That's what happened. So Dressrosa arc was disappointing to me. But right now, there's some great stuff going on. Kaidao is amazing. And how cool is his crew? I mean, the only one we've seen really a crew member is Jack, and he has a bounty of $1 billion. And that just, what an evil character. So there's just some great stuff going on. I love manga, and I'm going to go back to reading Bleach at some point. That name is in Russian, I think, so I can't even begin. But Hinta Topun something. What do you think about death matches nowadays? Still love them. There's been some great tournaments recently. Tournament of Death, I heard, was really good this year. I haven't seen it yet. You had Zandig's Tournament of Survival. I've seen that bump where Zandig goes off the roof into the back of a truck onto glass, fire, barbed wire, and light tubes off of a building. So Zandig is the man. Oh, so great. And I'd really like to see a new King of the Death matches, though. Aussie wrestling fan, when are you going to start doing horror movie reviews again? You know, there's nothing I can even say about that. I can't make a promise to that. If something happens, then I'll definitely upload one, but I have no clue, man. NG Ben, do you have a Wii U or any next-gen consoles, and are you considering on getting the Nintendo NX? I don't have a Wii U. All my gaming lately has been on PC. The new Nintendo sounds cool, but I probably won't get it. I haven't had a lot of time to play video games, so I can't invest money into a system when I don't really have a lot of time to play it. And Steam is just really convenient for me. So I'm thinking about getting Overwatch for PC. But yeah, I do a lot of PC gaming now. I've been playing through Fallout New Vegas, Saints Row the Third, Saints Row 4, Skyrim, One Piece Pirate Warriors 3, and of course Left 4 Dead 2. I still play that. So those are the games I typically play when I want to play something, but I do have a good bit of games that I've gotten through Steam. I mean, it's hard to beat Steam with these sales. It's crazy. I think I got Saints Row 3 and 4 for $5 with all the DLC. And if you've never played those games, that's a great deal. You can go back and play them. I never played Fallout, so I got New Vegas for really cheap. I got Skyrim for really cheap. And these are games I never got to play because for so many years I was only a Nintendo owner. And it blows my mind how much Nintendo gets screwed out of third-party games. They get no wrestling games, no sports games, none of the new shooting games. Nintendo gets nothing. The only thing you get are Nintendo-made games, which are amazing, don't get me wrong, but you need more variety than that. And every once in a while you'll get an original game or a Monster Hunter or something, but you gotta have those third-party releases, man. And so I really hope that that's what they get with the new Nintendo, that they can start getting some wrestling games again. I mean, when was the last wrestling game to come out on the Nintendo system? It was for the original Wii, I think, and it was like SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 or something like that. That was the last Nintendo wrestling game. So, yeah, I'm playing more PC games now. And last question from Steven Smith. Whatever happened to the horror room movie reviews? I think you reviewed A Nightmare on Elm Street last. Yeah, man, that's a great memory, because that was a long time ago. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, clearly you guys really want me to do the horror movies, but I can't sit here and make a promise to you that I know when I'll do it, because it's not as simple as me just sitting here and making a video. I have to watch it, I have to take a lot of notes, and then I have to record it. And usually there will be a little bit of editing in those, unless I just want to sit there and read the whole thing. But yeah, I think it's really cool that you guys like those. Who would have thought that me sitting there and telling you what happens in a horror movie would make people happy? I mean, it's kind of crazy to me, but I appreciate it. And that's it for the Q&A. Once again, I appreciate everybody who participated. A lot of great questions here. I hope you guys have enjoyed this Q&A, and hopefully I'll be able to do another one of these soon. So that's it, guys, and thanks for watching. Bye. Alright, guys, I am back to answer these questions you left for the Q&A. I want to thank everybody who participated, who left questions. I got a lot of questions here, some great questions. So I'm just going to go through and answer these now. I think I can do all of them in one video, so I'll give it my best shot here. Starting with Ryu245, when will you do another horror room movie review again? I mean, really, I didn't stop for any particular reason. I haven't done one in a really long time. I guess I left off with Nightmare on Elm Street. I didn't finish that. I only did the first movie, and that's kind of where I left off. As far as those go, I haven't really watched a lot of old horror movies in a while, at least 80s slasher movies, but I did watch, I don't know if anybody else is going to remember this horror movie, but there's a horror movie from the late 90s called Cube. And I really like it. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I did watch that one again recently. And then I watched Cube 2, which sucks. I'm not a big fan of that one. And then they actually have Cube 3, and I've seen them all before, but I really like the concept. And basically, these people wake up in a giant cube, and they have to navigate through the cube. They don't know why they're there. They don't know what's going on, but they have to navigate through the cube and hope that they can find a way out. But the problem is, a lot of these rooms have traps in them. So one room will spray acid in your face, another one has a bunch of knives pop up, and it's just a really cool concept. So if I did do another horror movie, it would probably be the Cube series, just because that's the one I'd want to do. Yeah, it was a cool one night only deal, but to keep it around any longer than that, I didn't care for it. Lee Cameron, do some scary movies, please. You're good at them, like the most recent ones, please. Yeah. I haven't even seen The Conjuring. I haven't seen The Conjuring 1 or 2. I haven't seen The Purge 2 or 3. I really have been out of the horror movie loop, besides that witch movie I told you about, and I'm not watching that one again. So yeah, it would have to be a movie I really wanted to see. I'll tell you this, the trailer for that new movie Lights Out, which they straight up ripped from a YouTube video, where the lady's, I can't remember what she's doing, but when she cuts the lights off, this thing like moves towards her, and when she cuts them on, it freezes. There's some type of YouTube video out there like that, and I don't know if they were involved in this movie, but it's a really creepy video. And this movie is just directly based off of that, I think. And that one actually looks really, really scary. Balzer77. How much did you have to drink here, and have you turned into an alcoholic? You know what? You can thank Drunk Daniel for this Q&A, because I actually stay pretty busy, and while I do think about the channel on occasion, he's the one who puts these things into motion. He sets this up, and then sober Daniel has to come and pick up the pieces. So that's actually why I'm doing this now. Anthony Jenkins, Jink 2000. What are your thoughts on Jeepers Creepers 3 and Chucky 7? Chucky 7. I guess that's a new one that's coming out. I saw bits and pieces of that one Chucky movie. After watching that movie, I felt like I needed a shower. I was just like, that's so evil. It was strange, man. I didn't like it. I hate Facebook 31184. What was your first reaction when Shane McMahon came back? I thought it was kind of cool to see him back after being away for so long and no one really knowing what he was doing or what had actually happened with him and Vince, if they had a falling out or what. So I thought it was cool, but I didn't really see what they were going to do with this long term. I didn't buy him as a credible opponent for The Undertaker. I thought the whole thing was really sloppy. The writing was really bad. Why these guys were fighting, that didn't really make any sense. And I knew he was probably going to take a big bump at WrestleMania. I didn't actually watch WrestleMania 32, but I felt like he was going to take a big bump, and he did. But yeah, I feel like the whole McMahon rivalry storyline, it's been done to death. And I mean, Shane coming back to take control of Raw or book Raw or something like that, whatever they were doing, it's not real. It's he doesn't actually have any power. So I'm not really excited about any of that crap. Yeah, it was a cool appearance, kind of like a cameo, like when Psycho Sid came back or when Vader came back. But to have him on TV all the time, when you also have Vince and Stephanie and Triple H, it's like you'd think his dad owns the company or something, you know? It's just one of those things. Like, why give the wrestlers screen time when we can pack more McMahons on TV that no one wants to see? So, Blue Tank says, do more scary movies review, and it would be cool if you could play scary games, LOL. Scary games, I really enjoy them. I like to watch other people play them. Games like Silent Hill, Outlast, those types of games, Amnesia, I like to watch, but I don't actually like to play myself. I think the last scary game I did play myself was Dead Island. And that game's not really scary, but there are some parts it gets kind of creepy. Like when you go into the sewers, it's kind of creepy down there. And the cool thing about Dead Island is you can play with another person online. You can kind of help each other out. But man, some of these games today, they're really, really creepy. And they're so creepy, I get creeped out watching other people play them on YouTube. I mean, I'm being for real. So I don't really play a lot of scary games myself. Adam Zarkos, what's your opinion on Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton? So I just heard about this. Is there a storyline to why these two are fighting, or it's just supposed to be a big match like UFC or something, where we have Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar just for the hell of it? I'm not really interested in it. I mean, if Brock Lesnar goes out there and just takes him to Suplex City, that could be entertaining for the short term, I guess. But yeah, I don't think anybody's really super hyped about this matchup. And Randy Orton doesn't really seem to be as passionate as he used to be, which is saying something, because there were a lot of times he was kind of phoning it in and he was kind of lazy. So yeah, I don't even know how much longer this guy wants to wrestle. But as for me, I'm not like super pumped about that. There's really nothing in wrestling I'm super pumped about. What, Enigma66, what good movies have you seen that you could do a review on? I watched The Shallows last week, and that was a shark movie, and I thought it was awesome. I really love that movie. I love shark movies in general. More realistic shark movies, not like Sharknado and all that crap. I don't watch those. But The Shallows was really good. I saw the new X-Men movie. I really liked that. I haven't really seen a lot of movies this year. I saw Deadpool. I saw some movie about a witch in the woods. I can't remember the name of it. Oh, what was the name of that movie? It was something about a witch. And I went and saw it with a buddy of mine. We didn't know what to expect, but it's about this family back in the old days. They farm their own food, they live off the land, and there's this witch who kidnaps one of their children, and things just get worse and worse. And not to spoil the movie, if you know what I'm talking about, but it's like the most satanic movie I've ever seen in my life. Just when you think it's over and it can't get any worse, it does. And big spoiler, the end of the movie has the only girl left surviving go off into the woods naked to have this naked dance with a bunch of other girls while Satan levitates them. And that's how it ended.